song in 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back to Late Night Lately. I was fully just reading messages. Yeah. And like I said, messages, baby. Two. And like the most boring messages you could ever possibly imagine. Welcome back to Late Night Lately, episode 10. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier late night podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Let me start the clock. Start the clock. Have I made that joke before? Jump, 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 jump. I mean, it's very apropos. That's a late night show. Real Time with Bill Maher, a show I do not watch. I think my mom does though. Let's mention it. So the writer's strike has ended. I took this show on a hiatus because of the writer's strike, and then the other two podcasts also followed because I just grew so tired and bored of those shows. But I took the show on a hiatus in solidarity with the writer's strike because late night was off, and just an easy decision, didn't want to do it. But there was a time, the writer's strike is now over, and now this is the first episode back, as well as the first episode back for what in the world is going on? What's going on with this? I don't know if you can hear this, but I hear a lot of interference. But it was also the first episode back for Seth and the new landscape of late night. All right, I found the episode title, Landscape of Lineup. But there's a new lineup for all of late night. Corden's gone and Daily Show was off. And they still have yet to find somebody, which we'll talk about in a second. Actually, I just realized that was a topic too. I have it. I have everything down. Okay. Anyway, so that's what's happening. And then I would say maybe 2 weeks prior to late night truly coming back. I don't know if I'm recording multiple episodes of this show at once. Maverick, come here. I'm recording multiple episodes of the show of the podcast at once. Late Night Lately, LinkedIn Logs, and Constitutionals, and I just did LinkedIn Logs for the first time in months, and Maverick is in trouble because he destroyed a boxing glove. I went to go. Here's the thing: came back from work, took him to go pee, and then it's such a nice sunny day outside. I said, let me go wash my car. 20, 30 minutes tops. Come back upstairs. I left Maverick out of the crate because he's been cooped up all day. This man destroyed a boxing glove. He destroyed a training mask, an elevation mask. Thank goodness usually when I leave him out, I elevate all the stuff that's important. And he's destroyed before, but he hasn't destroyed in a couple of months, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt, but he didn't take it. So now we're back, and there was a point maybe 2 weeks ago where some talk shows were coming back because I guess they quote unquote needed to. A lot of people were attacking some of the hosts, which to me didn't really make sense. I mean, there's a room for understanding and chatting with them instead of just outright attacking them. While even though we're on the same side, and we're all on the same side. This sounds just like a very, very Trumpy thing to say. Oh, we're all on the same side. There's a lot of good people. And also that's my new Trump. There's a lot of good people. Good people on both sides. I grabbed them by the vaginas. And that's the title. Grabbed them by the vaginas. The vaginas is what I said, apparently. Are you sure you want to? No. But there was a point where a bunch of talk shows were coming back, not late night shows, but a bunch of talk shows were coming back. And the talk shows that were coming back were like daytime shows. Sherry Shepherd's show, I believe, Jennifer Hudson's show. They all have to start. They're all on different contracts and they have syndication numbers or syndication things that they have to hit. And that's the excuse that a lot of them were using. But thank goodness, I guess we came back before, because they would, a show like Sherry Shepherd's or Drew Barrymore's, which we'll get to in a second, would lose their syndication rights or something like that. I don't know, but these are big enough networks to where they can go, hey, give us our rights back. Anyway, but Drew Barrymore was the biggest, and she came on Instagram and said, hey, let's do, we have to come back. Because we want to come back, rather, because there's other people employed by the show, not just writers, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to use writers. Okay. People then come out and then they go and protest in front of the show. Great. Wonderful. We're doing protests. But then I think people, to what it seemed like from an outside perspective, it seemed that people were like kind of attacking Drew, and I'm not going to say rightfully so, but if you disagree with her, just bring it up. Let's just, I feel like they were attacking her, and she came out and put out a video and she was crying and all this stuff, and I guess it's now deleted. And then Bill Maher was also one of the shows that was going to come back. So Drew Barrymore's show, which uses writers, and Bill Maher's show, which also uses writers, were going to come back and not use writers at all. For Drew, I feel like it was just kind of a gesture of, hey, we have to have everybody else, like they're not getting paid, and we can do the show without writers. And then Bill Maher, I guess it was just kind of a pig-headed, let's do the show without writers. I'm a comic, I could do whatever I want. And even though they're coming from two different points of view, they're basically saying the same thing in the end, that they didn't need writers in order to put the shows on. Now, that all being said, again, I still think people unfairly attack Drew. I just feel like she's America's sweetheart. I just feel as though that it could have been handled in a much better way for the people who disagreed with her. And yeah, I mean, she came in as gingerly as possible, going, hey, we're going to put this show on. And people were like, you're stupid, you're scabbing, you shouldn't be alive, things like that. I don't know if people said that last part, but I like Drew. I think she's great. And I don't know why people were so rude like that. So anyway, now the shows are back. While they were off for the past 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks rather at this point. The five remaining regular late night hosts who they all put on a podcast called Strike Force 5. It was a very big surprise. I never listened to a show in the daylight. I always listened to them because they came out in the morning or overnight, I guess. But I would always, since I wake up at 4:00 for the gym, I would always listen to those episodes right before I hit the gym, and it's fantastic. It's a great show. I mean, this is something that I never would have. It was like Battle of the Network Stars in the 70s, I guess, was when that was a popular thing, 70s or 80s. But it was cool. It was great to see these five hosts come together, do a podcast, and now podcasts are mostly meant for famous people apparently. But you got your Conan, you got your Dax Shepard. You got, I want to name another white person. Oh, you got the Smartless guys. There's 3 white guys. and they do these shows, and they're all sponsored by Aviation Gin and Cricket Wireless, which are Ryan Reynolds' companies, and he did commercials which were very good and very funny. And then Toyota, who George Clooney's alcohol company. It's crazy how many A, celebrities own liquor companies, but B, how many big sponsors they got, and all the money, all the proceeds, all the profits went towards the crews of the shows. So that's Jimmy Kimmel Live, Last Week Tonight, Late Night with Seth Meyers, The Late Show, and The Tonight Show with Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Fallon, respectively. And I enjoyed seeing the camaraderie in that, because, I mean, truly, if you are somebody who thinks your personality is, I only watch John Oliver, and that's it, then you don't have a personality. I'll say that in the end. So what do we do now? I did not prepare a monologue. I was going to, and then I thought this would be a funnier thing to do. So what I'm about to do now, I thought would be funnier. Oh no, this is so sad. I'm just now understanding what I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't think this is gonna be as good as I think it's gonna be as it's supposed to be. Hold on. I'm laughing too much because this is gonna be the bit. This is gonna be the bit. Okay, ready? So and okay, ready? So I'm gonna do. There's a whole big thing right now with "We Didn't Start the Fire." "We Didn't Start the Fire" is a bad song by Billy Joel that came out in the in the late 80s or 90s. I don't know. It was a bad song, and there I have to make sure this is the one I'm going to use. Well, this is not going to be good. Okay. and this "We Didn't Start the Fire." It was a bad song, and it basically it captures everything that happened. Not everything, a majority of major things that happened in that time period, like up until that time period. So, and it was a lot about baseball. If you listen to the song, it's like Rosa Parks baseball, Open the Doors baseball, Jurassic Park baseball, baseball, baseball. And then when Fall Out Boy decided it was smart for them to do a follow up, which I like Fall Out Boy, and hold on, I like early Fall Out Boy. I don't know if I've ever heard modern day Fall Out Boy before. So I thought it would be fun to do my own "We Didn't Start the Fire," but with the topics we missed for the last 5 months. So I'm gonna do this. So here we go. I didn't practice this at all. The fire. This is gonna be good, and I hope you enjoy. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Trumping. Nope. Okay, hold on. I gotta. More time. Let's go one more. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Trump indictments and bag of coke, the White House king, Charles is king, and UFOs in Mexico. Bobert touched at Beetlejuice, and Zuck versus Elon. Messi, Coco wins. And then there's more Trump indictments. There's two or three more, total of 4. Martha Stewart was in a swimsuit. There's Canada wildfires. Maui attempted coup in Russia. And then Ferguson plane crash. There was a writer's strike, and then there was an actor's strike. Barbie Oppenheimer. Twitter's X now. COVID resurgence. All right, we did it. That was "We Didn't Start the Fire" parody. It's perfect. Cut, print, perfect. "We Didn't Start the Fire." If you want to know the karaoke track I took that from, it's CC Karaoke over there on YouTube.com. YouTube.com, CC Karaoke, "We Didn't Start the Fire." They had some of the instruments. All right. I actually wrote the skeleton for the monologue. I wrote down 4 topics for jokes, but I just didn't. I don't want to do it. Okay. Jesus. All right, let's go over what the best things in late night were this week. I gotta say, first things first, we had monologues again. I mean, monologues were just there's oftentimes this is not a joke, it's not over exaggeration, but there's oftentimes when like a big sad event happens, where the hosts have to come out, hey, we stand in solidarity with those affected by the shootings at Marshall stores, where I kind of fast forward or I just don't watch because I know this is going to be just like 2 minutes of a show that where they go, we're in solidarity with the a community because of something that happened, and then people clap. But I came back with everybody and I watched those. I mean, it's fantastic to see monologues again, and you know what? And it's solidified my thought that this is, and coming back like after the pandemic when they started having audiences again, that I hate audiences. It was the audiences I disliked. It's not that I grew tired of Colbert. No, I grew tired of the audience. Also, he still does not know how to talk to his band leader. Maybe he shouldn't just talk to them. Like maybe they shouldn't even like acknowledge each other. Okay, but we're back. And this week had a variable amount of guests because they were still in the actors strike, and they're still not allowed to come talk about their projects unless they have a voucher for said project, or they can just come and hang out. But I think that a lot of actors aren't really doing that because, I mean, at least from the podcasts, that's a lot of what's from podcasts I listen to. That's a lot of what's happening where actors aren't really going on those at all. More or less, they're starting their own. But Schwarzenegger made his rounds. He even was on Howard, and I think he was on Today Show or Good Morning America this morning as of this recording. Kathy Griffin, Lunel, Wanda Sykes, Stack Shepard, they were all on Kimmel, and then Seth had David Byrne, Anne Hathaway, Nick Offerman, Chris Hayes, Tracy Morgan, just a great connection, a lot of guests. Fallon had Haley Williams, Maluma, J.J. Watt, Eric McCormick, Chelsea Handler, just a very, Taraji P. Henson, a very good selection. I just want to celebrate these people who came back first. Bob Odenkirk, Fortune Feimster, John Oliver, Boy Genius, Anderson Cooper, they were all on Colbert, and obviously John Oliver is not a guest. There weren't too many. I mean, okay, so here's what happened with everybody. The strike ended like last, Saturday or Sunday or something like that, or not officially, but officially ended like last Tuesday, and people were allowed back into the offices on Wednesday. There's not a lot of prepared bits or anything, but there's a lot of great. It felt, I mean, for all these shows, Seth's, Seth's already pretty loose, but everybody felt kind of loose, and there was an excitement and there was a jitteriness, for the Roots, when they bring in Fallon for the last 10 seconds of the theme song. Questlove, there's a beat, and then everybody pauses, and Questlove says the number of the episode. But but for this time, when they came back, he goes, "Wait, we're back." And then they played, and it was exciting. The energy, it was electric. It was fun, and it was great to see musicians play. I mean, just to see music in these things. I know a lot of people don't typically like music, or I mean, it doesn't get, unless somebody is expertly, the sound of what was it called? Hello, Darkness, my old friend. Those guys, the guys who covered that song, not the guys who did this song originally. Who is it? The Sound of Silence, and it's I can see it. I can see it in my eyes. Disturbed. Oh, I didn't have to look. All I typed in was sound. Okay, it's Disturbed. And I mean, unless those, then it doesn't really matter. Anyway, Mike Hanford writes at the Tonight Show? I didn't know that. Okay, anyway. So it was fun and interesting to see that. To see that all back. Again, we got Monday shows are fantastic. Everybody did interviews with the exception of Seth Meyers. He did an entire episode that was a closer look, a 30-minute episode of Closer Look, and then the next day he brought back Jokes Seth Can't Tell, which was probably the most dirty one of the dirtiest ones that have been. And then he just did a week of Closer Looks, which is great to see. I think Fallon. I will say this: there was something that happened during pandemic, during the strike, where some ex-staff members at the Tonight Show brought up that Fallon, might have a drinking problem, and that he was rude to some of them, kind of like what happened with Ellen DeGeneres, except I don't think hers involved alcohol. She was just rude, and also not. I probably wouldn't say like completely rude, but also kind of absent when it came to what some producers were doing for bullying tactics. But a lot of people were not happy with the workplace at the Tonight Show, and then I'll say this: Fallon apologized in a closed meeting to current staff members, and then people who were ex-staff members were hurt because he didn't address them at all, like go and apologize to them, and then B, he didn't talk about on the show. I think out of the two of those, would be the most important. I don't think he has to address that on his show, because that really doesn't concern the audience. And in fact, if I found out that when Oprah and Gayle King appear together on CBS mornings that they vape and they beat up children, I would go, well, it's not my problem. If it's the children of the show, that's fine, whatever. But I'm kind of partially being serious, where he doesn't really need to come out and say I'm sorry. He is. He's not like Ellen, where he's portraying himself as the nicest person in the world. But there's definitely that factor. But I do think the further we get from the people who mentioned it, and it was a Rolling Stone article, but that mentioned that. But the further we get from the people who were ex-staff members, and they said that they didn't enjoy their times, and it kind of soured them on the experience. I understand that but it also would be difficult for them to, because they did this anonymously, so it would be difficult for them for Jimmy to call everybody who used to work there. But also, it's tough. There's no right or wrong answer. But also, I do think the wrong thing to do would be to come on his show and be like, hey guys, this is what I did wrong. In terms of ratings for the week, I don't want to talk about ratings. I think that's stupid. I do think Colbert's fans were very happy that he was back. Let's just say that as I look at the numbers for videos, whereas a lot of people's videos kind of level out in the tens of thousands, his are especially some that are reaching triple digits, which are good. And then Oliver came back with a great, fantastic job. It's so funny that these shows have to cover 5 months of topics. They don't have to, but they're covering 5 months of topics oftentimes. And a lot, I think Kimmel and Colbert and Fallon told similar jokes on one of those days. But they're all covering the same thing, and it's just so interesting to me. But I'm so happy that these shows are back. I'm so glad that we can watch these shows. And now let's get into these last few stories. The first one comes from The Wrap, and oh, thank God it's unlocked. It's a pro article, and they're usually locked, and right now it's unlocked. It's written by please keep it unlocked, Kayla Cobb, Lori Seitz, and Lucas Manfredi. And it's titled "What Late Night's Post-Strike Return Looked Like Behind the Scenes." And besides the podcast, they cover what happened back in the last strike in 2007-2008, when it was a kind of a field where there weren't that many shows. It was Conan and Letterman and Leno. The Wrap attended tapings for the return of Last Week Tonight show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, and The Late Show. Oh, they didn't go to Seth's show. Okay, interesting. Oliver and Colbert hosted pre-show Q&As with audience members. Oftentimes, you'll see when a show like, I'll do Colbert. When a show like Colbert's goes to commercial, or when a show like Kimmel's goes commercial, those two shows in particular, when they go to commercial, you'll see in the lower corner of your screen, like some behind the scenes stuff where they're resetting the stage, and Kimmel and Colbert will answer some questions from the audience. And then I know at the end of every show for Seth Meyers, they do Q&As and everything. So there you go. The questions from Oliver's taping made it clear just how closely his audience had been following him over the summer. They asked questions about Strikeforce 5, all that stuff, and so there's Q&As and stuff. Nerves were present and gratitude abound. I mean, it's hosting a show. You're a seasoned host. It would be like riding a bike. However, it also makes sense that you make mistakes getting up before you get on a bike. I have a bike. I bike everywhere, most places. I bike most places, but sometimes there's a week goes between me riding the bike, and oftentimes I get on there. I'm like, whoa, okay, and then I can go for a little bit. But yeah, there's a crowd wrangler at Jimmy Kimmel Live admitted he was nervous yet excited and took a moment to, quote, soak in being back and hearing the audience. I mean, that's gotta be something that makes you feel good. And you're gonna be a little rusty with joke delivery. I saw it for all the hosts. All the hosts were just a tiny bit rusty, but that's what happens when you're behind on things like that. The strike was addressed at front and center. Obviously, we talked about the strike. Tons of Trump jokes were all over the place, and then they all sped through the past 5 months of jokes. So that's interesting. But now I want to get to this. This is written by Eric Deggans at NPR, who is a guy that is connected to me on LinkedIn, and he did not answer an email I sent him for an interview. Deggans. And, okay. So Roy Wood Jr. says he's leaving The Daily Show, but he doesn't hold a grudge. Now, this is very important because over the last month, it was revealed that Hasan Minhaj, there was a New Yorker article, I believe, that came out that was called Hasan Minhaj's Emotional Truths. And it essentially called him out on lies he told in his stand-up, where he would say, like, my cousin was attacked by a racist person, where that wasn't the case. That wasn't necessarily true. And it blew up into this whole thing because he was more or less unofficially the front runner for to take over the Daily Show hosting gig, even though back in May, Dulce Sloan never got it. She got 1 day in. And other people never got chances, like Ronnie Chang, Michael Costa. A lot of people never got chances to host. And the Daily Show, I think, will be back next week. I'm almost positively back next week. But it's just so interesting how they have this chance to do a new version of this show, not a new version, but do an elevated version of this show, and they go back to a guy who can tour. He can tour, and he can be doing something else. Whereas they have these homegrown talents right there who have been holding down that show. I've spoken about it before. If you listen to the first 9 episodes of the show, you'll hear me praise people like Desi Lydic, Roy Wood Jr., Michael, Ronnie, Dulce. Hey, you'll hear those people. He's chasing his tail on the couch. He's not even supposed to be on the couch. But you'll hear these people be so funny and be so good. And then you'll see people like Wanda Sykes. Wanda Sykes was good at hosting. You'll see people like Wanda Sykes and Leslie Jones and Sarah Silverman and Cal Penn host the show and be so good and so funny. And Sarah would be great hosting that show, and Cal would be great hosting that show, and even Hasan would be great hosting that show. But I think this show now deserves somebody who has grown up in that system. And Roy Wood Jr. would have been a fantastic host. And I know he just came from a black host, and I would love to have an Indian host or a female host, like truly just, anybody who's not a white guy. I would love to have somebody in that spot. Actually, in fact, I was a champion of Desi Lydic and Roy Wood Jr. co-hosting the show together. And we've got Amna Nawaz and Jeff over at PBS NewsHour. That show's still good with those two people hosting it. I mean, come on, Judy Woodruff hosted by herself, and she hosted with somebody else. So it's always been good. We could always have two people. But Roy Wood Jr. says he's not coming back to the show. He started 8 years ago. He said, quote, I can't come up with plan B. I can't come up with plan B is while still working on plan A. The job of correspondent, that's what he said. It said is while. That's why I read that. The job of correspondent, it's not really one where you can juggle multiple things. And I think 8 years is a good run. I'm sure he's got a lot of offers. He's been acting more recently. He was in Confess Fletch with John Hamm, and that's a very funny movie. I enjoyed my time with it. And I mean, Roy is a funny guy, and he has a lot going for him, and he could definitely host this show, even if he had a co-host. He said that he would come back if they offered him to host the program. The show's looking to get a full-time host in 2024, and the rest of the year is going to be filled with people guest hosting again. And he's done a White House correspondent dinner, which is very funny, which also was good because I believe his mother was a reporter, a journalist. He's either father or mother. I got two options there. And so he had a very good connection to that. But Hassan was apparently the front runner for all of that. And now Roy's out, and I mean, I guess the search, while I still think they should be looking in his direction, it's still kind of narrowed on people on a big name type like Hassan. He also said, I did not see this part. Quote, I think Hassan checks a lot of boxes that the network would want and people would want. Hassan's young, he's global, and he has political IQ. That's a very nice thing to say. I read no anger or bias in that. But yeah, Wood is right. Roy Wood is right about that. But the thing about Hassan's show, why on Netflix, oh God, what was that show called? Hassan's Netflix show. But the thing why the reason why that show for me in the end did not work, why I fell off, even though I still watched a majority of the shows. Let's see, Hasan Minhaj. That show was called Patriot Act. The reason, and I think I fell off because the pandemic happened and I was tired. but the reason why I think that show didn't work in the end is because it was it was overproduced. I was gonna say a little bit overproduced. It was overproduced, and B, I just don't think. I think his audience. I think what happens is if you're catering to your audience, where let's take Kevin Hart or Leslie Jones, Warrior Jr. You're catering to your audience. Your audience is mostly black, a majority black. And they're going to be there, and you're going to tell jokes specifically for them, and for Hassan, I feel as though his show had a lot of Asian immigrants, second, third generation, but Asian immigrants like Chinese, Japanese, and Indian, and he catered a lot of his stuff towards him, like immigrants, just immigrant style jokes towards those people. And I feel like it was a lot of pandering, and a lot of the jokes. That's not to say the shows were bad. I'm just saying it was a lot of pandering. But I did enjoy the shows. Enjoys the shows. And when the show came back, and I'll say the same thing for Last Week Tonight, when during the pandemic, and it was just Hassan by himself in front of a green screen or a TV wall, I think that's when the graphics and everything and his jokes really could play well. Whereas for Last Week Tonight, it was a lot better because, there wasn't this kind of wait. There wasn't like a deliver a joke and then wait and ask for a laugh in return that Hassan kind of does with his comedy. That's nothing negative, but I'm sitting on Netflix right now looking at, Hassan's stuff over there. But I do think that there is room for him to have a show like this, but I just don't think a daily show would really work for him. I think a Patriot Act style weekly show where it can be a little bit overprocessed be the thing. When I have a Samsung phone, I have an S23 Ultra, and if you watch a lot of the phone reviews, and they all the time they compare it to the current Google Pixel that's out and the current iPhone, the current top iPhone. So it's always the top phones versus top phones, and a lot of the complaints over the years of the camera system not really a complaint, a lot of the features over the years for the camera system for Samsung phones has been the fact that they oversaturate a lot of the times. Hey, you can see me right there. But is that they oversaturate their photos and things look unnatural. They look, bright and overprocessed. And let me see if I can find a photo that will make sense. So look at this picture of Nova where it's kind of you can't really see it, but it is a little bit more colorful than what it should be. Versus on iPhone, it will be more flatter, and then versus on a Google, it would be more even across the board. It is. I just realized I have an interview with a TV person tonight at 7 p.m. He's in New Zealand or Australia, one of those. But it's very interesting to see the kind of dichotomy between the two. I don't know what the remedy for the Daily Show would be. I have a remedy for the Late Show, but that's not going to come back. So in the form that we need that it should be back in. We're going to get at midnight probably. But it's going to be sad to see, a show like the Daily Show have one less voice that is in fact Roy Wood Jr. All right, let's end the show so I can record this last podcast and then eat a bowl of cereal or something. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to aforementioned famous people who create shows, comedians, stuff like that. You can see a video version of the show on youtube.com/cpluscomedy. You can follow us on social media at Chad Black White and at cpluscomedy. Rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends about it. And this is the end of the show. I'll see you later, suckers. Do we usually talk over this? I think I do. But I'm going to stop. So, all right, bye.